Which angle and who's going to be on top first?
We are rolling.
I would really prefer to be on top.
I guess this is getting chopped off the front end.
That's fine, man. Leave it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there's no cursing. We're good.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Creative Businessmen. Today we have Matthew Hahn with us. He's the owner of Two Cloud. What is it?
Cloud 2 Studios that does the Between Two Clouds project.
Cloud 2 Studios, that's right. And you're a producer, curator, artist. You do a lot of different things. Saw you were doing some really cool stuff over the pandemic with comedy, some comedy shows. Where are you from?
Originally from New Jersey.
Okay, cool.
I grew up in Charlotte.
Oh, nice. And how did you start? How did you start your company?
Do you want like the full story on it or the?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So without getting into personal details, there's just a period of life where I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and I kind of got into the creative side of life through finding out I was a decent singer, and then just kept exploring that, and found out I liked writing poetry. Then I did a lot of acid and wrote a lot of poetry. And along the way, then got into producing and so on and so forth. And I was like, okay, let me try the creative side of life that kind of made more sense for me, because I've tried other stuff and programming and business, etc. And it just didn't quite stick. I was good at stuff, but it didn't pull me as much as the creative side did, like the challenge of it and the abstraction and the lack of success in it. Like, you can't be successful as an artist almost. Like, you can business-wise, but as an artist, there's no such thing as success. It's just some form of expression that you just chase the next thing. So then over time, I did a lot of traveling and figuring myself out. And I did try an event once, because I noticed people really struggle to express themselves. So it's called Express Yourself, and nobody showed up at all. But the idea was great, and I was like, this feels right. This idea feels right. Doing an event, and then a couple years later, this is the true story, and this is literally the thought processes behind it. So I'm not exaggerating. We were living up in Wake Forest, and I was producing music at the time and making really good stuff for what it's worth, and just barely getting into DJing only because I didn't like what other people played. I just knew there's a lot of beautiful music out there that I wish was played more often, like, live settings. So I was like, let me try this. And I enjoyed it quite a bit. So I started to branch out into creative communities, and my best friend, Nicolette, she is hilarious as a person. And I was trying to really push her to, express herself too. And she's just talented at pretty much everything, but she's just so funny, it's ridiculous. And she's such a unique personality. So we were like, you should really try stand-up comedy. You'd be really good at it. So she spent like a couple weeks writing material. And me and my friend Daniel, we, wrote a little bit, and we're like, okay, we'll go to this open mic down at Good Nights, all the way in Raleigh. It was a good 15-minute drive. We went down. Nicolette got picked out of us three. We all signed up. We're like, that's awesome. She goes on, and she absolutely crushes first time. I mean, she crushes so hard that the next guy bombed and blamed her. Then like 3 or 4 sets later, when jokes weren't landing, there was like comedians who've been in it for a while, like pretty much referencing her set because of how hard she crushed. Nice. And it was just so silly, because she's such a silly person that she gets like power hungry immediately. She's like, oh, I did good, I'm gonna do that again. I'm gonna crush every time. I'm gonna be a professional comedian. We're like, okay, all right. we'll go back next week. And so we had a great time. We go back next week. We all three sign up, and then she gets picked again. We don't get picked, and I'm like, sexist. These odds don't add up. And I come to find out, it was on purpose. Like, now that I learned the open mic process at Good Nights, it was on purpose. She was picked again because it was a female that did well. So you have to push that, because there is a massive imbalance. And I understand that now, but back then I was like, that's crap. So I was like, I want to do it. I'm going to make my own show. And so I did. And it was just a bunch of random ideas thrown together. We lived in this like 100-year-old barn essentially up in Wake Forest, and it was beautiful, but it was in the middle of nowhere. Really long driveway. If you didn't know it was there, you would never know. And we did an event on a Monday, and I was like, okay, what would be cool for an event? Okay, me, Daniel, and Nicolette will do stand-up comedy. We'll live stream it because a lot of our friends didn't live in the area. We had a really, really crappy, I think a C922 Pro Stream camera, just atrocious. But it was great for us back then.
Yeah.
And then I had a friend who was a culinary
How
artist.
many years ago was this?
This was August of 2018.
Okay.
So not super long ago.
No.
He's a culinary artist. We're like, oh, it'd be cool if he came and like made some food, and we want to make a positive impact in the world. So he'll make, gluten-free and vegan food that's really tasty, and he did. And they were like, oh, I have friends that make music. We'll have a musician come in and do that, and then I'll DJ at the end, and I don't know, maybe we'll have some artists do stuff. I don't know. We just kind of put these ideas together, like this would be cool. And the first one happened, and Daniel was so bad at comedy that it was like, it's like watching a really slow train wreck that just like repeats over and over, just every joke attempt. So it was like beautiful to watch how horrible it was. And then I did whatever, and then Nicolette crushed because she's just such a unique personality in general, to where you just never expect what she's going to do.
Right.
And the musician was awesome. The food was great. And it was just really nice. It was just nice. We didn't know what we were doing. There's just certain things and ideas that I had for the first one that I ended up like a year later being like, wow, I was really dead on with that. And we had like 25 people show up on a Monday.
Nice.
In the middle of nowhere. We were new to the area. I didn't realize how significant that was.
Yeah, it's great.
And then we're like, oh, yeah, let's do this every week for the next month. And not realizing how much of a task and undertaking that is.
Right.
So we did. And then so on and so forth. It grew. And by the 8th one, we had like 90 people showing up to a house on a Monday. We had like the manager of Good Nights at the time come through, and like 4 or 5 different like local headliners. Again, we had no idea what we were doing. We were just trying stuff, and each week improving it. We had an in-house musician. We had
That's awesome.
The food got like acclaim. Like people talked about the food that we had, and we made it free. We would just lose money on it, and we made it donation based, and eventually the donations added up to more than what our costs were. And then by the end of the year, so it was August, right, 2018, we even took like a month off to figure it out before the 5th one. So by the end of the year, we were just kind of walking around talking to venues and telling about our project, and one offered for me to come and do like an end of the year party at one of their venues. This was Proof in Raleigh at the time. Now that guy's a really good friend of mine. And we had like 100 people show up. Nice. And it was only like on a month of promotion, etc. And we had a band and a bunch of stuff. I didn't realize how good that was.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, and it just, I don't know, it just kept kind of working. And I had these ideas, and I didn't exactly know what I was doing, but I just kept trying. And then the main event that we started was Between Two Clouds to You, because the whole Between Two Clouds thing, that was my artist moniker, and at first it was Between Two Clouds as comedy night, like my comedy night, out of my angst at Good Nights for not booking us. And then we turned it to Between Two Clouds to You, because I was like, oh, this could be something more. So it's like this. There's a whole story behind what Between Two Clouds is, and it's like all of the good things of it to you, because it's live streamed. Right. So, and 2 people, and it was free, and it was just all to really provide and contribute, and it was always with those intentions, and just try this thing out that we just kind of stumbled upon. Then venues asked us to bring our show out there, and it just kind of did well wherever it went. And then stuff happened, personal stuff, etc. We took a hiatus, and then a venue asked us to come bring. They saw that event, and I spoke to them once about potentially bringing it to their venue, and then later asked us to bring just a pure comedy show to their venue. This is the Cotton Company up in Wake Forest.
Okay.
Which is started in May of 2019. And we're like, okay, we'll try it. The first one was horrible, and we failed miserably. We tried to put it on a Thursday. I tried to do a panel show with it. It was terrible. But they gave us another shot, and the next one, I think 40 people showed up. It was awesome, and by that end of the year, we had at least 80 people showing up, and then
nice.
Leading into 2020, we had, I think, like 180 people, like in February of 2020. So we ran out of seats, and people were happy to be there. They didn't even care. They would just stand and watch it.
That's
so
awesome. Wow.
Yeah, we just kept trying stuff, and then tried a bunch of different like art gallery party things, started throwing these little parties, turned a coffee shop into a club one night. Just whatever I felt inspired to do, we just kind of tried it. I was like, this could be cool. Let's try this thing. And I didn't realize how bad I was at it.
Oh, you're actually pretty good at it. I like it. I mean, it's really creative the way you went about it.
It's getting there. But yeah, so the events are just such an interesting beast because they're so challenging. Like events is such a difficult industry, especially if you stick to the art. Like I see why people sell out with events because if you don't sell out, it is incredibly difficult. And there's things and challenges you would never expect to encounter. The financial side of it's very difficult. Because how people perceive the value of an event is very odd.
Yeah.
It's not quality based. It's very much
well, that's where I have to
industry based.
Say that your comment about you can't be successful with art. I feel like you can be successful. I
didn't say you can't.
I feel like good art, like the side effect of good art is the value. If enough people appreciate the art, so it's weird. It can go both ways. I mean, in one aspect, you're successful just because you're creating an idea that you had. So you're expressing that idea, and that's a success in itself because you took the idea out of your mind and you put it into some medium, into some form. But also, if you are really passionate about whatever art you want to create, whether it's creating events or doing comedy or writing or whatever, and you get really good at it, then I think the success, the financial success, is a side effect of the art, the quality of the art.
Yeah, it can be. Well, I was saying more like art can't be successful in the sense that it's such an abstract concept. You're trying to express something that you can't put a finger on.
Yeah, well, that's everything, right?
Yeah, it could be. I guess everything could be art.
It's all creativity. Yeah,
technically. Yeah, the more I learn that, the more that's true. So yeah, I guess it's probably the case. I guess you can be successful or not successful. I guess it depends on your measure of success, right?
That's true.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess what are you successful at, right? If your goal was to create an environment where you're expressing yourself and you're becoming creative and you're doing these things, like if you set out to accomplish these things, not the pursuit, success not necessarily equating to money.
Yeah.
Just success in accomplishing the objective. I think that can definitely be true in any of those situations. But
yeah, I guess I struggle with it because you can always move the marker on success.
Everybody does. They move the field post.
Well, I think that's the key is that you're not pursuing the money. You're pursuing the art. And if enough people appreciate it, then success is a side effect. Or financial success is a side effect. Yeah. Maybe you never get the financial success, but you're really satisfied with what you've created, so you're successful in that,
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm just in the mode of learning a lot about life and myself and not getting caught up in, I guess, the common talk of how to look at life.
Right, yeah.
Like how to really dive into multiple ideas. Like one, everybody is different in terms of what's going to make them feel fulfilled just based on, I would say, a lot of nurture, and then I'm sure there's levels of nature too.
Sure.
Like the difference between like I came out 5'7", so if I don't make an NBA draft in my lifetime, which obviously that time's passed, that's not exactly a reflection of how well I did in life, right? Versus if somebody's like 7'2" and they love basketball and they tried and didn't hit that, that's gonna really curate how they approach the world. So it's like you don't judge a certain animal that doesn't climb a tree by how it climbs a tree kind of thing. So it's like even your relationship to a tree is very different based on if you can climb it or not.
Oh yeah.
So I'm figuring more out like, okay, how am I actually like attuned? Like how did my childhood impact me in a way to where even when I look at relationships and friendships and romance, what's actually something that's fulfilling for me and healthy versus what's the general consensus and idea of like what's healthy and fulfilling. Like for me, I feel very trapped when I can't just be myself wherever I go.
Yeah.
So for me, like freedom of self is really important. Like I don't like biting my tongue. So it's like with the projects, it's figuring out what makes me feel free while also chaining myself to stay committed to it. Like what's that that really healthy combination where I'm giving up things I really don't need, even though society says I need, or certain thought ideologies say I need, but then pursuing things of freedom for me. Because then that's how it makes the project sustainable, I think.
Right. Yeah.
Is that because the more I learn, any good idea has taken a lot of effort. There's no good idea that just worked without an incredible amount of effort.
Yeah, and it's all ambiguous too.
Yeah.
And also there are no true original ideas. It's all combinations of ideas. We all receive a lot of these same ideas, but some of us are just better at expressing the ideas, or we have unique ways to express them.
Yeah, or a lot of us try, and then a lot don't.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or some people fail, and how you recover from the failure determines a lot too.
Yeah, I'm really good at recovering from failure. I'm getting not great at recovering from success. Every time something goes well, I'm just like, fuck, when does it end? This is a fluke.
You have to embrace that.
This
too,
is never
man.
going to happen again. When I fail, I'm like, yeah, I could see how this failed.
That's funny.
That is funny.
That is. I think too that a lot of people, something happens that's a change in their direction of their path, and they're not receptive to it. Like they actually put up a brick wall when something new happens, or something changes, or maybe it goes against what they thought they knew. And in doing that, it really creates all these additional items, like these additional problems, and
Right.
they contribute to their own failure. They're going to blame everybody else for it, right? But the
Yeah.
reality is like I hate to say like they're not willing to roll with the punches, but like, shit happens, things change, life changes.
Yeah.
The world of the last year shows that to everybody. Like, you can't plan for everything, but
Absolutely not.
the ones that are willing to be versatile and figure it out kind of on the fly, like you failed, right? You like, hey, I think this is a great idea. You tried it, it didn't work, and you didn't just go, I'm going to stop. You basically just opened yourself to the idea of there is a way to make this work. I just haven't figured it out yet, and maybe we need to try different things, or just be more persistent, or just continue down the path. But I think there's a level of resilience there that a lot of people lack, and I think the fear of failure, once they fail once, stops them from really deviating from what they think they know will work.
Yeah. Also, the fear of succeeding, like you were saying, like it's hard for you to, when you have a win, it's hard to accept it and feel good about it. But I think some of that's probably just fear. I think we all experience that when things start to go really well, or you start to succeed at something. It scares you. Like then it becomes more real, and then you start to question yourself. You start to question if you're doing it correctly, or if it's the right thing, or there's this fear of it failing, maybe, or it's. I think it's just a trap, honestly. I think it's just us second guessing ourselves, and when you have to ignore that voice,
This is something I think about a lot. And I'm now viewing it in a very different way. Like I feel people are too goal oriented. Like I think goals are a wonderful tool, but the goals aren't going to make you happy. Like it's a very short term happiness when you accomplish a goal. It's like, oh, wonderful, I did this thing. But does that give your life purpose? Does that make you love people more? I don't know if goals do that. I think they're a great tool to stay organized, but I'm starting to not look for successful event or preparing for failure of an event, because I've just dealt with too much disappointment and heartbreak in life. I think it's like broken me all the way to where now I just want to continue to fall in love with the process.
Yeah.
And just I want the privilege to continue trying.
That's a great point,
that's
man.
What I really love is that, can I continue trying? Am I growing? Am I learning? And then, do I hope that the things I do go well and sustain itself and provide a lot of value to the world? Of course. Like, who wouldn't want that? There's nobody on the planet that would be like, no, I don't want you to do that thing that provides value to everybody. Everybody wants that for me and what I do and for everything. But I'm starting to not personally value that as much. I'm not worried about if my project goes well or my businesses go well or if I do well. What I want to do is, one, see myself just improve, both internally and externally. And I want to see the projects improve internally and externally.
Yeah.
But those are very much byproducts. I don't try to make them improve. I just have this theory that if you do things in a way that's not arrogant, and you really try, and you're honest with yourself, and you own what happens, and you really appreciate what's going on, and are very grateful for the things that you don't control, and just the ability to try every day. That's what I really try to focus on, is just waking up and being like, wow, what a privilege to wake up and have the agency to go and do something that's in my brain and of my own volition. So I try to stay there and not really go past that, because I think it's really easy to get a big head when things go well, or think you're better than somebody when things go well. So now I really focus on staying in my world and in my lane and what I can do, and trying to appreciate, the things around me that I don't do. And that's really helped, and I think provided a clear mind to where it doesn't necessarily sell more tickets, but it puts me in a better mental state to focus on others and why would they buy this ticket. And like, even when I open up my show, like I open up every show, because it's important to have this like anchor point, I think, for the events where people know, oh, I'm safe. I know this guy. He's here all the time. He's the one that makes the decisions here. So that means I'm safe in this environment if I trust him.
Yeah.
Oh, he made me laugh a little bit. I trust him more. Now they settle into the show more. And I could be wrong, but that's my guess. And I like doing it because I get to tell them how much I appreciate that they're there, because it's a privilege that they're spending their time with me, that they're paying money to be there. They could be at home having sex.
I agree.
They could be at home watching Netflix. They could be at home doing nothing.
Yeah.
But they spent their money and their time to come out. And then with like pandemic, et cetera, which I think we're past the point of doing much about. The fact that they're coming out to do that, and they trust me and my brand and what I'm doing enough to use resources and time. Like time you can't get back. So it's just such a privilege and such an honor to me. So I really focus on that. And the more I focus on that, the more that I'm not really worried about success or failure. Disappointing things happen. That's just part of the process. And I just want to fall in love with that process of when failure happens, I feel happy too, because it's just, I know that's part of it. And I love the part of it. I love the privilege to have the part of it.
That's a great perspective, man. And I think I really like what you said about not worrying about the goals. We're business guys too. We've had a lot of experience in business, so we set goals. But I agree with you. If you're just focused on the goals, you're never in the present. You're always in the future. And so you just reach these new goals, and before you know it, 10 years has passed, and you've missed it all.
Still got more goals. And
because you're always going to have goals.
When is it going to end?
But you have to enjoy the process, and you have to be in the moment and appreciate the moment, because the moment's all that's real. That's all that exists.
Yeah, just the experience of life.
And like what you're saying too is, being focused on the process and on the art, you're just going to get better at it. And the failures make you better too, because they make you try harder, or make adjustments. This didn't work. Let's try it this way. Maybe this will work better. And
yeah.
Did you ever play video games?
Yeah, I used to be addicted at a certain point.
Okay. What game? Or a bunch?
A bunch. You're gonna have to be more specific on that one.
Fair enough. Like
There's
Call of Duty, or like what style? Like first-person shooter, or like more like Mario?
I never really got into Mario. When I was a kid.
Role-playing,
It depends. So when I was
S&M.
a kid, oh my God. When I was a kid, I did play a little like Game Boy and Mario and Pokemon, but nothing like really too specific. Very normal kid stuff. And then there's a game online called Station, which was by Sony, which was before video games really blew up. And they had incredible games on there. There was a game called Bug Hunt on there that I played. Small community, but just such incredible. The graphics were way ahead of its time. Everything was. And a lot of times on there I played RuneScape. A lot of that.
Now, you said before video games blew up. What year was this?
I have no idea at this point.
I think video games blew up in like 1980.
Well, then it's a matter of perspective. Then,
I don't think you're old enough to be.
Tone.
So my whole thing is that, like, let's say you were playing, like, if you just said a first-person shooter or Mario, whatever the game is, right? It's funny how we're conditioned through a game to lose and not necessarily be okay with it, but be okay with it and understand that eventually at some point you lose, no matter what.
Yeah.
And even people that play over and over and over and over and over and over again, usually they never beat a game. Some games can't be beaten, but the ones that can be beaten, normally you'll fail thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of time and rack up thousands of hours.
Yeah.
Essentially practicing something to beat it. Right.
But you don't starve to death when you lose a video game.
That's right. Well, that's true.
Yeah.
But what the video game really is teaching you though is to take little failures and literally you can make micro adjustments. Whether you jump at a different point, you land at a different point, you take a different path, you take a different turn, you find a new hiding spot. Like literally, it's literally teaching you. And if people would apply that to their lives, right, their businesses, like I agree with you on the goal part. I think it's important to have broad direction. Like, and in general, this is the direction I want to take my life. So beforehand, it was just strictly goals with me, literally, and for years, for a long time. And I lost a lot of those years. Like I was just in this mindset of it's all based on this goal, right? And then a few things happened, and that led me to reading a book called The Untethered Soul, and then that kind of took me further down a path. And then I really started thinking about things from a different perspective and kind of going, I think it's important to have a direction, which is the goals help with, but the goal is not the thing because the goalpost always moves.
Yeah.
And so how are you happy today if you're always chasing a goal? So I think there's some level of balance there, but I just try to take everything that I'm doing and treat it kind of like a video game. Like
I think it's wise.
Yeah, we have a business that we have businesses going constantly, but we have another one that just launched recently, 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks old today, actually. We did a soft launch, and I did a soft open on purpose because it's a new industry that we're in, and it's not like the ones I know like the back of my hand. So I wanted to figure it out. So we opened without any marketing, without any advertising, without anything, just to have a chance to fail. Like to figure out, have a limited amount of clients to come in and to figure out what we're missing. And we've operated for 2 weeks like that and actually with some level of success. And now we're getting ready to shift into marketing and things. But during that 2 weeks, we were changing things daily. Like, point of sale errors and just this and that, and things were set up wrong and things not priced appropriately. I mean, like just so many things. And then, somebody comes in and asks a question we didn't think about, like there's so many things. And this is going to go on for a period. And
it'll go on forever. Right?
It'll probably, definitely. There's always got to be some level of that. I think with any company, if not, you end up being the JCPenney's and the Belks of the world. You go under, right? If you're not constantly working on some level of getting feedback from your client base and moving. So I'm like a mixture between the two. And what I've tried to do is be passionate about whatever project I'm in. So if I'm in this project, whatever it is to try and really be passionate and not make decisions based on money. Try to make decisions based on what it is I'm trying to accomplish, right? Like that whole, and sometimes that means more money. Sometimes that has nothing to do with money. It might just be a vibe or a scene or a setting or music or, like these lights can look so many different hues, right? And this studio used to look a lot different, and we've started doing different things, and it kind of has a different vibe just by changing the way the lights are on and what's off. So like there's just all these little micro adjustments that are made. So I've really fallen in love with that. And then I don't know, I think you're right. It cannot be solely goals. It cannot be solely profit. It's got to be like this. This is started as a passion project for him, something him and I were talking about. But this will do very well, but I don't care if it does. Like that wasn't the purpose. But that wasn't the goal was not, hey, let's find this other creative way to make money. So that was kind of
create something cool, and if it makes money, it makes money.
Yeah,
that's awesome. That's something I try to, because I'm still figuring out how to organize up my mind. So I'm only 29, so
it's a good age though. So.
Yeah, the conversations I'm in, like there's nobody in my age I really talk to when it comes to business. It's always people that are like 10, 15 years older. Yeah. So it's like I'm still understanding my greenness with everything. But there's a difference between like purpose and tools. Like money is a tool.
I agree.
Yes.
100%.
Goals are a tool.
Agree.
Resources are a tool.
Yep.
So I'm trying to really organize, like, okay, when I go to, like for me, my greatest outlet is DJing, and I DJ house and techno music. And for me, it's an art form. It's not just me playing music. It's like me really losing myself in that moment. It's like a meditation for me. And it's a cherished thing for me. It's a special space that somehow just clicks in my brain. And I just feel very much in service in those moments. And when I produce it too, it's something that just kind of hits me in a certain way. And I realize that's very purposeful, in that the software is a tool, the relationships are a tool, the branding is a tool, but that's not the purpose. Is it to get that branding to be successful for me? The purpose is that experience. There's something abstract and surreal for it for me. And then when it comes to like the stand-up comedy shows, the purpose is like stand-up comedy has just been my life since I was a kid, and I just always loved it. So like contributing to it in a way that I think is significant and more artsy and more clever and more sophisticated on the business side, and pulling it. I want to make events that are more healthy for it, because stand-up comedy is not a healthy environment to pursue through. Like the road is not good on you.
That's true.
Going to a comedy club and the 2 purchase minimum with really like low quality drinks, low quality food, and the seating isn't. I don't know. It's just not made for you to be healthy. It's made for you to have a good experience, but I just feel like it could be healthier and savvier and more artsy and more like respected. Like stand-up comedy scene is like this dirty thing many times, and I really hate that because it's such a beautiful art form. So it's like I want to contribute in a way where people understand its elegance and beauty, even in raw settings, even in dirty jokes. There's an elegance to it that I'm trying to like bring out. So like what's the tool and what's the purpose? I try to not get caught up with prioritizing a tool.
Yeah.
Because there's plenty of tools.
Definitely.
There's not plenty of purpose. So I think when people go for the money, it's like you're throwing your life away for a tool.
Right.
For nothing.
And in the beginning, I think without knowing any better, you pursue money.
Right.
Because
it's so stable.
Sacrifice creativity.
Yeah, but the interesting thing too about what you call money, you say it's a tool, right? It's funny to see how people have tools that they store and don't use.
Yeah, or they use it on nothing.
Right, or they do that.
Or more tools.
But imagine that you have 100,000 hammers and you just continue accumulating hammers and you never actually put them to use. And like this is this whole, and not to get too business, but Robert Kiyosaki has this thing. He says savers are losers, right? Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, etc. So his whole thing is essentially is money as a tool. And if your sole purpose of that tool is just to store it and never utilize it, you're going to lose in the long term. And so for me, that the whole thing also becomes, I think you need, once you've got a safety net, whatever that is for each person, you should decide what that is, right? Based on your comfort level, right? But once you've got that, you should not store money anymore. You literally, you need to put it into play, put it into use, and to enrich your life or the lives of those around you. Like I'm very much a capitalist, but I've become a socialist with those that I love and care about.
Of course.
And like that. So it's a tool. That's very much. And so as I've grown, it's very much apparent to me that that's all it is. Yeah. And so
what
like
a great tool.
It is.
Oh my God, money is so strong.
It is.
It is, but it's also a broken construct though too.
Unfortunately, the concept is so good, but man, people ruin everything.
Our society is a good society. We have a pretty solid social construct, but money is the one that needs to be fixed. The most.
That's one of them.
And it's not. Really, I think one of the solutions to more creativity in society is fixing that construct, because there's so much creativity that's muted or overlooked because the people can't be creative. Because people are just trying to survive because they live their life for the resource. Yeah. Just because they have to. Whereas we have the technological ability today to make it not that way. We can improve the construct. We can subsidize regular fiat currency with other currencies like cryptocurrency, stuff like that. We could have specific currencies for specific needs and base the value of those currencies on individuals and provide those as a society so we can subsidize people that are maybe under a certain income range so that there's no poverty. So everybody's floor is a pretty good place, and you have to be a part of the system to receive the subsidies. You have to be a productive member of society, and the only way to do that is to be a part of the tax system, to unless there's something wrong with you, like you have some type of a handicap. But as long as you're a healthy individual and you're a part of the tax code, you receive these subsidies through society, so you don't have any. You have all your basic needs met. You have a decent floor, a decent life, and you don't have to work 60 hours a week. You don't have to work 40 hours a week. You can work 30 hours a week, have a really good wage, have all your basic needs, have options, and then you have the ability to think about the creative ideas that you have and find what you're passionate about. And maybe it's nothing. Maybe you just want to play video games and work an entry-level job, but you're well compensated, so you're fine and you're happy and you have a good life. Or maybe you have great ideas, and now you have the ability and the resources to pursue these creative ideas, and that makes a better society. And you don't have to say, oh, you made too much money, you have to stop here. There doesn't have to be a ceiling on success. Success and power are two different things, and I think the biggest problem in our society is that there's an element of power or the desire for power that's really it's a trap. It's a lie. It really stifles creativity and success, because you can be infinitely successful and not have power over other people. And that's I think when we realize that as a society, and we get out of our own way and we stop worrying about having power over other people and worry about everybody being successful or having at least the same ability to pursue their interests, that's when we'll really thrive.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to that like with my own project, I try to at least take a step in the right direction, because we all have a level of agency and things we can do. Like I've seen the projects I have now, like I have thousands of people come through my doors, and the whole purpose is when people say things to the microphone, they actually hear those words. And I've seen people like cry at events of mine, and tell me really like intimate stories about like what it meant to them to go to them. So I've seen like what my agency could do, and I didn't exactly have the best background to get into it, or like mental health struggles, etc. So it's like if I see myself creating such impact, most people have such an ability to do that, but I believe that people really step out of their lane. So I try to just stick in my lane, and this is going to be totally abstract to this, but there was a barber I went to once in Chapel Hill, and I was talking about traveling, etc. I'm like, when do you travel? He's like, well, I have the whole world come through here, so I don't really need to all that much. And he felt very confident in that. And the guy was about as calm as you can get. And he's right, when you're constantly, having clippers to somebody's head, people get really vulnerable and share, etc. So it's like, through others we learn and shared stories, and, in his own way, he's changing the world just by recognizing the value of connection that comes through his space and how much he learns through others just by cutting their hair. So I try to like take that mindset with what I do, is that I don't need to do everything to change everything. Like I am not a banker or a financier or anything. So it's like, what am I going to do with the construct of money? But, I can inform people of like how cryptocurrency works and the potential of it. In my little spaces, I can accept that currency. I can, when they come in, have people leaving a little bit more inspired, and just in general, and then give them that opportunity to take that next step in their life, or help them be really filled, and hope that's enough, right? Because it's 9 billion people or something like that, and everybody has such agency that even if you're incredible, there's so many other people that have the same amount of ability to impact. So how much can you really impact? But you can impact a lot. So I like to like really niche down and realize, I can change the whole world with my little events. But, am I really going to see that change?
I mean, possible. The thing is, none of us know what we're doing. We don't. None of us know what any of this is, or where it's headed, or why. We just know that we have our own individual interests, and I think we need to promote these creative ideas and encourage people to pursue their passions, because that's what you've done. You've found something you're passionate about, and you pursue it at all cost. And but you know that's what makes you feel fulfilled, right? So that's what you should be doing. When people ask you what the meaning of life is, it's just whatever you feel like you need to do. And if you're really unhappy and you feel like what you're doing is not what you should be doing, then you should probably do anything you can to change it.
Yeah, and that's something that it's just such a difficult thing, because there's no right answer in any situation.
No.
There's just
Well, as long as I think the right answer is do something that doesn't harm other people.
yeah, but that's something that I totally disagree with, because the nature of life is you are going to harm other people. Like there was a woman once that I thought was beautiful, and my whole intention was, if I had somebody thought I was beautiful and they told me, I would really like that, appreciate that. I went and told this woman she was beautiful, and it like triggered her, and it hurt her. And I was like, oh crap, I was just trying to like pass a good compliment, but it hurt her. And it's impossible to not hurt people. You can't not hurt people. It's just not a possibility. Like when you get that job and 100 applicants got it, it's like you got it and you celebrate, but somebody else didn't. And that's just the nature of life, is that there's winners and losers. And
I don't think that's the nature of life, though. I think that's maybe just how we're experiencing it now, but it's likely that it's all one thing. It's all the whole universe is probably just one thing, and we're just a conscious aspect of it, and we're constantly evolving. But I think as we become more and more connected to each other, we realize that there's maybe not even a difference between us. We may actually be the same being or the same entity, but as we become more connected, we'll become more empathetic, and also more understanding. When we can, like if that lady could have, instead of hearing your communication through language, if she could have received your ideas directly and your intention, she would have probably felt love from you, and it would have been a positive thing. But who knows what trauma she's had in her life that made her react that way. I think we mistaken bad, or what we call bad or evil, for fear or trauma or pain. And I think I think it's just a result of suffering. And if we can reach a level as a species or as a society to eliminate suffering, then that changes all those things.
Yeah, I just think that's really optimistic. I think we're so far from that like I love that too. Like I love that idea too, and I try in my own life to pursue that as much as I can, but I believe we are so far from that it's not even. It's wonderful to push in that direction, and when we can make things more fair, we do. When we can eliminate or lessen suffering, we do that. But it's also, a lot of times people try to eliminate suffering and understanding that there's no system without suffering.
Yeah.
So you can lessen it, but there's always a trade.
But you can suffer in different ways.
The Olympics right now has got some weird things going on with trying to eliminate suffering, I think. This is a stretch, but there's an athlete that's really talented that they're.
Oh my God! Are you talking about Cherie?
Yeah, where they're not allowing her to get her full points and stuff.
So
dude,
dope.
Are you talking about the girl that's the runner?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is sweet as can be, and crushes, and because she smoked a little bit of pot.
Oh no, that one too. Yeah.
And then
that's what I was thinking about.
In another article, they're freaking like glorifying other athletes using CBD to help them push through. Meanwhile, she can't use the other thing for a performance enhancing thing, but then they are literally front stage saying, oh, we use this same thing as performance enhancing.
Yep.
And then they should all be being paid highly too. They're all being exploited.
Oh my God.
A big problem with it too is like other cultures like approach marijuana very differently. In Japan and places like that, if people know that you like smoke or something, you're a criminal.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
like you're looked at like that whole thing. So that's a hard thing.
Well, you are here too.
To figure out.
One of the girls, and I think she's actually a gymnast, but she's so she was assaulted as a child. I don't quote me on this. I think it was obviously someone close in her life. I think it was a coach. But anyway, survived sexual assault, went through all this, high level competitor, defending world champion, and defending her position in the Olympics, and they won't let her score. The Olympic panel basically said that she's so talented. You should look this up. It's going on as we speak. That's on the road. They will not give her the full score. They said that she's so far ahead of her peers that they basically take points away from her, so that it's for being too good. So to make it a fair competition. So
that's some weak shit.
That's some weak shit.
That's
and
crazy.
so what you're saying is on some level reminds me of what
stuff, dude.
What he just said.
Down from me.
100%. But what you just said is first do no harm, right? But there's the extreme of this where...
That's what I'm saying, right? There's always that trade.
Yeah,
there's
so
no perfect system.
They're trying to create a system where they make it a level playing field, but then it penalizes somebody that put in all the sacrifice and work. So then you get a girl that by all means could have gave up on life, right? Could have chose a different direction, who started her own gym, who focuses on having a safe environment for young girls trying to pursue these things that were previously predominantly ran by male coaches. And I'm not saying all males are a problem. I'm just saying that it has been
enough
prevalent.
Of a problem that we need to have some kind of.
And then she's being penalized to make it more fair, right? Which is literally taking somebody that's worked their whole life. And so she backed out of the Olympics. Actually, this was announced yesterday, I think. And they listed it as mental health things, but the reality is what they were doing to her.
Good for her. But they don't appreciate it. They're not worthy of her.
I agree.
Right. But that's a power thing, though. That's I still feel the same way about, your goal should never no aspect of your goal should involve directly harming someone else or bring harm towards another person.
That can't be the main intention. It's
well,
just
it
that it is a byproduct, though. It's just the nature of life.
In what way, though? That's
like
well, if she wins, someone else loses.
But that's not. But that's not her intending to hurt anyone else.
Right,
it's her trying to do the best she can at what she does.
But there is still harm.
And
the person's interpretation, like the one that loses, they are harmed, even though that person didn't intend to cause harm. It's something that happens.
That's a perspective thing, though, right? That's like
but everything's perspective.
There's a lot of people that sing or play music.
Yeah.
And some of those people are going to be better at it than others.
Yeah, and that hurts my feelings.
But for me, what I see though when I see
and I'm offended that you're hurt.
I see that we're all trying to express creativity, and there are certain individuals in our society that are just better at expressing those ideas, and it's like I call them like volcanoes of creativity. Like they're creativity volcanoes. So you occasionally just see someone that just erupts and overflows with creativity, and when I see that, it's like I'm seeing an expression of what we all are through this one individual. It's like an explosion of creativity out of this one person.
That was something that I've been trying to figure out. Is like I've really never loved how others idolize others, like particularly others with bad messages. Like people idolize Drake. Drake is an L on his forehead loser, though. When you listen to how he talks about things, nobody should listen to Drake. Nobody should look up to Drake. He's a loser. But
you should listen to Adonis, the song that one of the rappers wrote about his son with his stripper that he got pregnant that he hid.
Yeah, whatever it might be. Like, there's just a lot of losers that people look up to because they're in a position of power, et cetera. And like, dude, Beyonce doesn't even write her own music, dude. Like, that's what little girls aspire to be.
Well, she's a singer, though. She's a very good singer.
She's a great performer.
Yeah.
And honestly, great business lady, et cetera. She's a boss-ass bitch, but at the same time, she's not an artist.
Well, she is an artist. She's a vocalist and a dancer.
In a way, man. But like,
that's art. It's expression.
But I would literally die before singing somebody else's lyrics. It's just
but you're not a singer,
maybe
though.
I'm nuts though.
You're a producer, so you.
I sang first.
But you sing your own music, so you're also a writer.
Yeah, I guess there's ways and expressions and projects of it. It's just weird. I guess I just have a hardcore way of looking at art.
I understand your perspective because I feel the same way. I'm an actor, but I would prefer to do my own stuff instead of other people's art.
I guess what I wish about
but acting is still an art in itself.
The Beyonce thing, I wish that it was, she has all the fame and notoriety, and most of the stuff ghost written that they buy, and they make the people sign contracts. They're not going to say anything. So I think if I was playing into what you're saying, it would be really awesome if it was more open, like, this was written by this person.
Written by this person.
Yes.
This song was actually the Single Ladies song was originally intended for a British artist. Can't remember, Leona Lewis, and she turned that down, and Beyonce picked it up.
Yep.
But then like she gets all the acclaim of that, like it goes straight to Beyonce. It's like it.
Yeah, the writer should receive
something.
It's like
up front. Yeah.
Like people should understand, like when the actor acts in a movie, the actor didn't write
typically
the thing.
Right. Except for Neil. Neil does write a lot. Neil writes a lot of stuff.
I'm not in any movies yet.
That's why I've never heard of Neil. A different writer, and then
I haven't been doing it that long, about 8 years. So.
But like when Brad Pitt does stuff, nobody's assuming that he's the one that wrote that too. They're like, oh, the screenplay was this person. This person did this thing. This person did that thing. And nobody gives the written art to, Brad Pitt and that acclaim, etc. They're like, oh, he's a great actor, right?
Right.
Like, they say, when they look at like Beyonce as an artist versus like other person who literally produces it themselves, write the song themselves, etc. It's not the same. It should be very much like seen. That's a very different thing.
You need to see the whole team of people behind the.
That's what I want to see.
Right, like that's the issue.
They should
I have.
all stand on stage together and bow and
something.
And
it
all
seems
be
like
represented.
music definitely goes more that way.
100%.
Like,
Yeah.
I think film actually goes more the way that I like.
it's fair.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does, and
It is
people
more,
understand
yeah.
that film takes such large teams.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and if you know anything about it, like the gaffer and the lighting team is such an incredible
I'm learning
part
about
of
it
it.
this
and
last
the
year. Doing this studio
photographer
has
is
taught me
incredible.
so much about it.
Lighting's hard, man. I'm
We're
just
redoing
now
all the
getting
lighting
good at
right
it.
now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, this is going to change, but
So the point of the idolization. So I never like understood that. Even when I was a kid, I just never liked it. Like people would just glorify whoever was good at something, like somebody who's a really good football player or athlete. All of a sudden, everything they said is now intelligent. Like
right.
apparently, everything LeBron says is intelligent. That's just not how life works.
No, he's a great basketball player. That's
Right.
all. That's
and,
it.
and also he tries, and I love that he runs his mouth when he doesn't like stuff. He's like,
Yeah.
yeah, Trump's an idiot. It's like, well, great. I'm glad that people are.
I like that he seems to be a good father.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love his videos where he gets hyped for his son.
Yeah.
I love that so much.
Yeah, me too, yeah.
So, but I'm not. I'm going to listen to his political views, but I'm not going to value as above somebody that's studied it their whole life.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
That's just not the case. But the thing is that people are gonna listen to that. So like Usain Bolt is an example of this. Like Usain Bolt was naturally gifted from birth, to where if they ran, they're gonna run faster, and then they put the work in. But they didn't put more work in than every other runner on that squad. He just happened
Right.
to add up to that thing.
Yeah.
That people idolize and idolize and idolize, and then they lose track of the actual like concept of it. The sport itself should be seen as above the player of the sport. Like it's like we're all just role players, and
Yeah.
and some of us fall in the right pegs and the right holes. Like there's certain things I do that people give me credit for that I feel weird about because I just have certain like resilience towards, and it's no effort. But then there's other things that I put extreme effort towards, and I get no credit for, and
Yeah.
it's weird. And then it makes me feel like pushed aside, and now I feel like I'm slowly yearning because I want that credit for the thing that was actually merit based, and then it causes
Right.
other issues. And
I
Like-
do think this is changing a little bit, though. It's interesting
think
you bring
so.
this because we're the more connected we get as a society or as a civilization or as humanity, the less we're seeing like these individual people being put on pedestals as much. You know what I mean? Like
there's no
like-
more Michael Jordans.
Yeah, like
almost.
television is. You don't see these massive mega shows anymore. Like they're going away because there's so many good shows. There's
There
so
are.
many good. There's so much good content. So I think a lot of these issues they're being resolved as we evolve, and you're seeing people that are able to express themselves and not be overlooked as easily. Now you can create your own YouTube channel. You can start expressing your ideas on your own, and really it's across the board with everything. It's art, it's sports, it's business, it's all of it. And if you're really good at something or you're really passionate about something, you can share that passion with other people and become very successful with that. And I think that's part of the change, right? I think that's part of the solution to this problem. And also, these things are exponential too, so it's not linear. That's why when you said you think we're a long ways away from it, I don't know that we are. I think that this next 10 years may be like 100 years compared to the last 10 years.
Yeah, I
You
think
know,
we're.
so-
I think that their closeness to it is obviously more accessible. I just like to remember. This is, I guess, a little morbid, but like female like genital mutilation is still a thing, and like rampant in other parts of just
crazy.
locale. And
But that's getting better, though.
it's getting better. But the fact that it's even a word
It's
that
crazy.
expresses something
Yeah.
shows that. I like to not forget that like school shootings exist,
Yeah.
and I like to not forget that like people like sexually assault each other.
Constantly.
I've seen how messed up the system is for that up close, to where yes, I think we're heading in a wonderful direction many times, but also, we don't see the worst parts of life too.
Well, I think we're seeing it more now, and that's
We're
because
still so bubbled, though.
things are actually better today than they were 20 years ago,
Of
by
course.
far. But we actually see more today than we saw 20 years ago, which makes us better. We're like a self-correcting organism. We're
Yeah.
constantly trying to find a balance and improve across the board. And for me, from my perspective, when I see crimes and I see people hurting other people, there's an aspect of me that feels like we all should feel responsible for that. Like we're all in this together, and if one of us is suffering, we should all be suffering. We should all experience that pain, because that's how we correct it.
I think it's a compartmentalization of that.
Sure.
Like,
yeah.
like this is something that, 'cause I struggle with this so much, is when I see somebody else struggling, my first instinct is to give up everything about myself to help them. And I do, and it's something that harms me in the process. But I really can't help it, because it's something to where I knew when I was in pain I didn't have anybody there. That's what I desperately wanted, so now I desperately want to give that. So I'm figuring out, like, sometimes that's wonderful. But a lot of times the best thing I can do is live my best life. And when I have, raise my abundance and lower my needs to where, let's say my projects continue to work, and we have great business models and business plans, and I work very hard at it, and I'm getting savvier. So I probably will do better and better financially, but I don't want to increase my needs as I increase my wealth.
Well, here's
I want to do the exact opposite. And as I do that, then I have all this abundance to where I feel no need to save it. I feel safe and secure. It's where I'm like, what can I do with this? What's interesting?
Yeah.
I would tell you to do something that generates passive income so that you can give every month, give every week, give over and over and over. The problem is when you said it's almost self-deprecating, but you literally, if you give your whole self to where it's your own detriment, you can only do that so many times, right? And
right.
You literally,
the well runs dry.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so you've got to figure out a way, I think, to, like, passive income is an awesome thing. RMR, recurring monthly revenue, is an awesome thing. Like, what you choose to do with the tool is your choice. And I think you choose to be somebody that's generous and somebody that helps others and do that, but you can't do it to the point that you actually lose. You can't chop the tree down that bears the fruit.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm learning how to do that with, like, what I'm trying to do is with, like, so Between Two Clouds, because it's essentially art events, but the business model is a little bit savvier to where I want it to be a thing where it's not, 100 people could show up and the most we can make is $2 or $3 grand on a show. I want it to be, that's a great basis, but how can we turn this into, like, at some point I want us to specialize at doing comedy specials. But I don't know if you've ever seen, like, Zach Galifianakis at the Purple Onion.
Yeah.
What a gorgeous thing to watch. But then if you watch most comedy specials, like, I love Dave Chappelle, but his comedy specials could be a lot cooler.
Yeah, we're planning to do some of those too.
So
Some stuff like that. Yeah.
like, I want to take these shows and take a really artsy approach to it and ask the hard questions and back against the wall, like,
But entertainment's a great business to create that residual income.
Yeah, so I'm trying to figure out how to do it in a way where I'm not putting my hands in too many pots. Like, I'm already doing a lot, so how can I create that passive income, which is also me pursuing something which is interesting and exciting, which is also me pursuing something I know makes the world a better place, which is also me, realizing that life's not fair and the world's not perfect. And, like, I hate saturation, but it's going to continue to exist. So I may as well make sure that when somebody stumbles upon what I do, at the very minimum, I know it's not something I just did for money, but I put out something that has great intention to be as pure as I can make it.
Right. Before we get too far away from this stuff, though, and the saturation thing is a good point, too. I don't think it can ever be oversaturated. I think there's 8 billion people on the planet, and
it's a lot.
We're constantly creating new stuff. I think the cost of things will change. I think eventually most things will be free because they'll have to be, because we'll be creating so much new stuff.
Yeah.
That the current system won't work. But as far as what you're talking about how you want to increase your resources but decrease your needs to make a difference, there's a few things. Just us having this conversation helps make the difference.
Yeah.
Because it's not just us having this conversation. Millions of people are having, maybe billions are having this conversation. And it's these ideas that are powerful that make these changes, because our whole construct is based on ideas. It's all ideas. Even the money itself, 95% of it is just ideas. It's just digital. So I think having the ideas is the first key to the solution to the problem. And then obviously you're acting on the ideas. But also, I've seen this a lot lately in the media and on social media, people bashing Jeff Bezos for his space program or Elon Musk for his space programs. These things are...
It's very immature.
Yeah, these things are very important for the progress of our society and the future of our society. And what people need to realize is people like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, the reason they create these big, successful empires is because they have their ideas that they want to pursue to help humanity as well. And so, like, one of Jeff Bezos' ideas from a young age was to create enough wealth where he could start his own space agency, his own space company, and then he could create a company that would allow us to move manufacturing into space.
Yeah.
And make it autonomous, and
he wants to make the internet of the space,
right? And
infrastructure.
then make the Earth the paradise that it used to be.
Yeah.
And it would just, and then instead of having 8 billion people on the planet, we can have 1 trillion people on the planet. You can have 1,000 Einsteins, and Elon Musk has similar ideas, but you have to have resources to get there. And even like I really enjoy when Elon jokes about money and stuff, because he realizes it's just a construct. We just have it wrong. We need to change it, and we won't have poverty anymore. We can do these things. And also, you don't need to, like, as you become more successful, your interest in certain things may change. You may buy more expensive things. That's not a bad thing. That's actually a good thing, because those things need to be created too, because that's part of the creative process of everything. It's all innovation. So there are certain advanced technologies in our society that are very expensive, but someone needs to buy them. For now, we will change the construct of money eventually, unless we just completely destroy our whole society. But as technology advances and exponentially advances, the pricing of technologies will change, but also hopefully will change the structure of our society where there's no poverty. So everybody has a good chance, or they're in a good place. And then people that really want to pursue certain passions or creative endeavors can go as far as they want to. And, there's a lot of important technologies behind building Ferraris or Lamborghinis or yachts or jets, anything. All this stuff is important. You can't just stop it. You can't just say, stop making this aspect of society. You just have to change the floor of society and make it fair, and then there's no ceiling. Creativity should not have limits.
It's something that I'm noticing more and more, because like as I age and grow and do more business and meet more people, I'm noticing there's just a massive immaturity that exists in our society, and entitlement to where
I agree.
Everybody loves that they can order things and get it in 2 days or less.
Yep. Same day sometimes, yeah.
But all of a sudden, they hate that somebody gets the credit for doing it.
They hate Amazon. Yeah, it makes no sense.
But then they're like, well, we don't need Amazon. There's other companies that do that. It's like, yeah, they do that because Amazon.
Yeah, because Amazon did it.
If it wasn't something you needed to do to be competitive, it wouldn't have happened.
Like
so
every automaker is creating electric cars now because of Tesla.
Somebody, because Tesla opened the government to giving all these subsidies, et cetera, and providing the pathway to it. But they don't like the narcissism of Elon. It's like, well, I do.
Yeah.
I like the idea that I see more Teslas every day, and I understand that it's not a perfect system yet, but we're heading in a direction that, it might be. It's probably better. We have some of these big ideas.
Narcissism with Asperger's too.
Yeah, or just being like generally weird and awkward.
Yeah. I think he really cares. I think he genuinely cares about humanity.
Also, too, the average person, what do they do?
Right.
That's something I just bewilders me. I'll get criticism for everything. I mean, I don't even want to go into it. There's just story after story where I'm just looking at people okay, yes, I'm a flawed human. I'm trying my best. What do you do exactly?
Yeah.
Most people do absolutely nothing.
I agree.
If they are takers. The very high majority of people are privileged and entitled takers that think that their opinion matters, but their opinion is based on their life experience that adds up to not contributing. They contribute a very minimal amount. They want a lot back, and their ideas are reflective of that. And
well, I think that's part of fixing the floor in society too. Will solve a lot of those problems, because I think a lot of that is just fear and well, mostly just fear. Fear and suffering and just the unknown of how am I going to pay my rent? How am I going to feed myself? Can I afford to have a family?
Yeah.
It's just a constant struggle for people. So their perspective is so different. You know what I mean?
I think there's a lot. I think there's a lot of that. I think there's also like a lot of bubble wrapping that happens. Like this is something that I wish people talked about more. Is 100 years ago, people would have 8 children and 2 would survive.
Right.
And that's very normal. But now the very high majority of people survive.
Yeah. That's
not a normal thing. It's not even healthy, because it's not existed in our evolution ever.
It's healthy. It just is what it is. It's not.
It's different. But I'm saying it's like it's 100 years of change. It's
but
not.
It's
It's
better.
a very short amount of time.
Things are better for people today than they were 100 years ago.
100%.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that there's a lot of what got us to this point, and structure got us to this point, that we're now having to relearn the entire fabric of society. To where like death is now this thing where we're getting technology that, by the end of my lifetime, I could just survive forever based on...
Right. Death is we're looking at death as a disease now.
Right. Versus just a reality of life. So it's changing the entire fabric and foundation of society. But it's like there's a lot of things that need to occur from that and change from that, where there's ideas that would typically die off, but they're not dying off now.
But all these things are happening at the same time. The solutions to the problems are happening as the problems are created. So it's it's hard to look at things in the big picture, but it's all happening simultaneously. And I think some of the problem with some of the entitlement stuff too is some of that's a power issue. When I look at things like socialism or communism, those are power structures. Those are designed to control other people's lives. I want to see a system that's more of a capitalist type model, but it really is built around self-empowerment.
I like that idea as well, the individual versus ideological.
But if you fall, it's not a bad place to land. You can just get back up and try it again, or try something else.
Yeah.
And that's, I think that is, we need a society that is unrestrictive toward creativity and advancement and innovation.
And I agree in ways. The thing I just disagree with, though, is that like the reason I've been successful is because of how much I've been through. I've just had an imbalance of just perfect storms in my life. And it's like the resilience I have wasn't just like born with it. It's like I've just been broken in so many ways that there's almost no risk for me now. Like for me, going out, and I just recently lost like 90% of my money, but I'm chilling.
Good.
Because
it's a good lesson.
Yeah, I've learned a lot from it. Yeah, there's a lot of learning.
We've lost millions of dollars.
I guess, and I don't want to do the math on the fly, but technically I lost 120% of my money.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really messed up on that one. That's crazy.
Yeah,
it's part of it, man.
I went from a fictitious $10 million net worth to negative $2 million. So, that was fun.
Well, good job.
Yeah, and then 5 years. So March 18th was 5 years since I hit zero. This March 8th, I just celebrated 5 years to work my way back to zero. By the way,
and
zero's a good number.
Zero's a good number, bro. I celebrate zero. March 18th is there's a couple of things that fall on that date. We've started to figure this out. There seems to be some things that keep falling on the same days, but March 18th is a 0 day for me. So
that's crazy. March is a weird month for me too, man. Yeah. I've had a lot of life change in March every time.
Yeah, me too. I got some stuff in March, man. I got some deep shit there, but
it was a big month for Caesar.
Oh yeah.
Oh goodness.
But I don't know, man. March was rough, but yeah. So, can you say what you lost 90% on?
Good Lord, dude. All right.
Was it just a pandemic or?
No,
dude.
I could tell by there's something else there.
No, so I'm just a lot sweeter than most people, and I don't like realize that because I'm so hard on myself because I really want to like be a champion version of myself.
Yeah.
And be a champion for my people, like the people that have had similar upbringings, etc. And so I got called up one day from a friend of mine saying, "Hey, I work at this racetrack in Rockingham, and the person that owns it said that I could make some money on the side throwing events there because they may as well. They don't have a lot going on there. It's like, would you be interested in throwing an event with me, an EDM one?" I'm like, okay. And the reason why he asked me is because he went to one of my like overnight rave things, it was awesome. That was right before pandemic, and I'm like, okay, let me go check it out. I go down there. It's cool as shit. I'm like, wow, yeah, this would be really awesome. Like, what is this going to cost, et cetera. He's like, well, we're getting the space for free. And, it's just whatever. Let's just keep it small, et cetera. I'm like, okay, let's do like a few hundred people at most. And, I have some friends. And I got a really good deal on the sound system. And got these lighting guys through that. And, I really put all the puzzle pieces together. And I'm like, yeah, I got good deals on this stuff to where it only costs, $8 to $9 grand to put the event together. Which is incredible for.
No, that's great. Yeah.
For the quality,
Something that size.
Nuts. Like world-class sound system, lighting's nuts. The whole lineup.
I was thinking 80 or 90 grand.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Right, because it's just I've built a certain credit with a lot of people through just really caring and really trying, and it pays off sometimes, and it allows you to do things much cheaper than you usually would because you have different intentions, so the world just supports it a little different. So I put this event together, incredible lineup, just music quality with all the best of intentions, no frills and gimmicks, no like vendors that are selling rocks that, say change your heart frequency and all of a sudden your problems are going to go away type stuff. Like just sticking to the art. Like it's just a good party
Right.
with wonderful house and techno music and a great environment and not trying to do too much. And I put this thing together where, behind the scenes, the production side of it was just, gorgeous. And I had this wonderful team to put it on. We have great ideas about keeping people safe and camping, etc. And so I took care of all that. And then there's a few pieces other people were supposed to do. People that were not, within my project. And every time somebody else had something to do, they just never got it accomplished. It did not matter how small the task was. And if anything, it, made it harder. And then over time, I already had like a full plate. And then the project got harder and harder because I had to then do pretty much everything. And then people caused problems that didn't need to be there. And then, come to find out the business infrastructure behind it changes. They had a new manager come in. And I don't have any like ill intent or I guess bad feelings towards any of these people, by the way. So when I'm saying this isn't like it was just a learning experience for me. They didn't do anything necessarily personal to me. But they're people that, have a lot of wealth and a lot of money, but they're not a lot of wealth and a lot of money through the arts. I'm an artist, first and foremost. So when I go and do something, I'm doing it for the art of it, not for the current standard that typically is. And the current standard in like the party world is, I think, horrible in terms of how money is made and how they look at art and how they book and what kind of music is the most popular and exposed to people. I think it's atrocious personally. So I try to do a really good job with it and have my own little world. And I was willing to like lose all of that, most of that money, and not be a big deal. Then I ended up having to like pay more to promote it extra. And then because of the reputation of certain people totally outside of me, it impacted people wanting to go. And then because I made the tickets affordable, people were literally saying it was a scam because I wasn't trying to like make a lot of money off them. I was just trying to lose a few grand and put on the event. Like I was trying to lose money. I was like, yeah, let me make this the ticket price so that people can really afford it and have a really good time, really experience this, and we can try it out the right way. And I know I'll learn so much that it's worth $3 or $4 grand. Well, we literally sent promotional teams out to like different cities, and we got like something like 80, 90,000 eyes on it from trackable metrics online. And, tickets were doing horrible at first, and then over time they started ramping up. And then people were complaining about the price, and I was just like rolling my eyes because people's gauge of quality and value is just, I don't think very good, at least in that industry. So I even lowered the price. And I'm like, whatever, I'll lose more money. I just want people to come and have a good time. And over time, that became more and more the thing, is that I just want people to come and have a good time, for it to be safe. So I spared no expense to do that. And, said, I'll lose 6-7 grand, but I'll be fine, because, our events usually make money and we're doing quite well, etc. So as long as, we sell a decent amount of tickets, which we absolutely were, we were actually going to sell more than I originally thought we would. So then the event starts Friday, right? And this has been in talks for like 3 or 4 months. And I've been waiting on a contract for that long, but I just took their word because nothing seemed all too fishy. And I spent a whole 4 days there prior, really making sure there was nothing I could have missed, so I did everything I was supposed to do. Well, literally every day after that, I found out something else that got messed up. I found out something else that didn't get followed through with. I found out something else that was totally out of my control and wasn't communicated between people. And then Tuesday comes along and the event's Friday for a pretty massive undertaking. And then I get told, well, this cost that you asked about for literally months, is there going to be any last second costs? And I was told, no, there's nothing coming up. And then I'm told, well, we need to get at least $500 to cover a certain thing. And at this point, I'd spent so much on promotion that I could not recover. It was not possible. I would say 85 to 90% of the money to spend on the event, the cost of it, is stuff that I spent the money on I couldn't recover. The only things to push through and make the event happen would have been another maybe 10% of the cost, so almost nothing. So Tuesday I get that, and I'm like, that's kind of fishy, that's kind of weird. And then I still didn't get the contract. I'm like, okay, I'll pay that, I guess. It's not a big deal, right, in the grand scheme of things. And then Wednesday I get a call, and then I expressed that to the person that in the first place reached out to me saying, hey, do you want to throw this party, etc. I ended up doing all the work for it, and he didn't follow through on certain things like security backing out last second, and all this stuff totally out of my hands that I was told was under control up until 2 days before. Everything was good because there's only a few things to do. And then Wednesday comes along, and I get called and I get told, hey, bad news, we can't do BYOB anymore, which was a main selling point of the event, and which made it safe too. And because you can't do BYOB anymore, it means that people are going to drink. They're going to find a way to drink, but that means that now we can't do a lock-in style thing, which keeps everybody protected and safe. We had security on staff. We had everything, 10 p.m., et cetera, which also means cops can't come in at that point. So now people are going to have to go to their cars, which then the tropical storm hit. Then going to their cars is another extension of safety, et cetera. So pulling the BYOB thing last second, Wednesday night, when this event's supposed to start Friday, and there's most of my money into this and all of this time and effort from a bunch of people, expectations, etc. And then I just kept thinking about it. I'm like, there's no way I could do this event safely anymore. It's just not possible because there's just so much to it, and they're still working on the infrastructure there. A tropical storm hit and poured on that place, so then it's going to be muddy and sloppy, and God forbid, just bit by bit by bit, I know this cannot be done safely. And I knew the moment I pulled it that there's no way to recover that money. And I had to refund thousands of dollars of tickets. I had to go through painstakingly and be this is just coming from my bank account.
Yeah.
Everything is. So I had to cancel the event, and it sucked so much. And then a lot of people around me obviously got quite upset about it, and pretty much
shit happens.
Took their frustration out on me.
Be understanding about it. At least you paid them back. So. Yeah,
and a lot of people came through woodworks and were like, "Hey, man, that really sucks." They could have been upset, but they were like, keep the let's say a few $100s worth of tickets. They're like, yeah, just keep that to cover some of your costs. Very sweet, yeah. But I couldn't, I would have at most lost $2 or $3 grand if I would have pushed through with the event at most, because I saw the tickets coming in, I saw the numbers coming in. So I had to literally sit there and say, okay, I'm gonna go into debt, but I can't do this safely. And I could have done it ethically. I took all the precautions. I had all the things lined up.
Right.
But it's I just can't justify what could have happened from one person going and driving off drunk, or one person on a different form of substance, going to their car and getting caught by a cop or something like that, or you know, in the middle of the country. God, one girl gets like abused or something, and I just knew because of that lack of being able to lock in and that BYOB having to be a thing, they have to go to their cars to then do that and facilitating that. I just knew we couldn't do it safely, and I didn't feel good about it at that point. So I had to pull it. And then the storm hitting too was just another sign of it, and I tried to turn around and do another event that weekend, and we got a little bit of the money back. There's just a lot of things outside of my control that really screwed me, but the thing is that all the risk was on me, and by default on a few people around me, but a high majority me. So there's a lot that was learned from that.
Good learning experience, yeah.
There was a lot. Like, I'm giving you the details amongst 100 times more details that came into that.
Yeah.
And it sucks that, like, I really did my part. Like, I really did everything I was supposed to do. And a lot of my team did too. Like, they really did their, but people outside of my team did not. And it's just, we didn't have the power in our hands, even though we were asked to be there in the first place. But people are going to think how they think regardless, and they're right too. I think how I think. So it put us in a lot of uncomfortable situations that I didn't have the power over, and I made the best with it, and I couldn't even explain to my team how certain things were, because I knew they wouldn't understand, and they would view it in a very harsh way. When I understand why things were a certain way. The reason why they pulled the BYOB thing is because they had to protect their own liabilities, and there's certain things that made it to where if something did happen, I don't think their insurance would cover a certain thing. So them pulling it wasn't malicious by any means. But at the same time, they didn't have a conversation with me saying, like, how is this going to impact your event? What solutions can we figure out together?
Determined up front, yeah.
Right. So it's like, but I don't blame them either. I don't think they're bad people. I just think they have absolutely no idea what they're doing.
Because you could have provided the alcohol yourself or brought in vendors or, you know, whatever.
They could have came to me with a solution, but they didn't even try to, which it's not their job to try, right? It's not their job to care. But when you're working with somebody like me that really cares, and I'm willing to, like, die for what I believe in, it immediately shows that, you know, that they're not that kind of people.
Right.
Well, that's part of problem solving too, and from a business perspective, the next time you do it, you'll have a checklist of these things that you make sure are handled up front and discussed up front, so it's not a surprise later.
Right.
Because there'll be more surprises.
One of that checklist.
100%.
One of that checklist needs to be who you get in bed with.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that was the biggest one, and it's not because they're bad people or anything. It's just
No,
not a
it's
good
different.
fit. I'm
It's not a
like
good
an
fit, yeah.
honorable person. I'm an honorable
If I was
warrior
in
on the
their
battlefield.
position, and I have some experience with this very facility, which is kind of funny. We have a mutual attorney friend, but anyway.
I heard he's really good.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny that you brought this up, but anyway, if I'm on their end, so like when we do a project, anything we do, like I like when I commit to something, like I'm really huge on loyalty. Huge. And if I commit to something and I expect you to sacrifice for me, I better be willing to do the same for you. It's not about who's got the money, who doesn't. It's like we're making a commitment to do this project together. Let's do it. And everybody brings different things to the table. There's things that Neil brings that even at my best effort, it's a poor attempt to what he can do on what sometimes could be like what he thinks like maybe mediocre level effort, right? But then there's things that I excel at. But no matter what, I'm going to come from a place of sincerity and say, I would have sat with you and said, hey, look, this is what's going on. And there are ways to get temporary licenses or temporary insurance, rather. And there are things to do. There are also other companies, right? There's also, you know, there's creative solutions to every problem, right? We have a business that we can't get the health department to allow food, right? So we're parking a food truck on the facility, on the property, and I'm going to serve the exact same food. The difference is instead of it being in the building, it's outside on the food truck, and the waitress is going to have to walk 8 steps outside the door rather than walking through the back of the building, right? So like there was a way to do it.
And they might have been too busy, or other bigger fish to fry, right? So
or they were looking at it as somebody somewhere said this is a zero net for us, and then maybe we can get $500, and it became there's a liability and there's a headache, and somebody agreed to this, and maybe there's new management, and there's all these things that have shuffled,
right? Which were totally out of my control.
100%.
I was put into just a very bad situation,
100%.
and I was very much treated like a scapegoat. Which this is what people mess up with, is like, I am not the person to fuck over, because I am relentless, and there's nothing behind me. I could have no money, But when I walk into a building, you may as well treat me like I own it. It does not matter where I go. I own myself, so that means I own everything around me too.
I like it.
And I'm that way because I've just been through too much. It's just life's broken me too much. I've seen too much. Like I haven't spoken to like either of my parents in like 4 or 5 years. Like I just got a shit hand. Yeah, like I have a tenacity that's just, and also I just want to do good.
Let's talk about that. What was your childhood like? What?
I would say I don't think my parents are bad people. I just think they're heinously stupid.
That was supposed to be an inaudible laugh, but I couldn't hold it in.
You definitely laughed at it, man.
I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
My mom said something very similar yesterday. I was talking about I can't remember how I said it, but what did I say?
Oh, I remember. Yeah, something about. Yeah, I'm not going to say it.
Yeah, but basically,
I remember it though.
I'm not offended. I'm not offended.
Yeah.
I don't worry with the opinions of those lesser minds. But basically, some version of that. But you can go ahead.
Yeah, so like they just since a young age had certain ideas of life that were very immature, but they had other ones that were very mature too about working hard and saving, etc. But their ideas of, like, my father wouldn't take a supervisor position at work because he didn't want to do more work, but then he would just work 80 hours a week and come home miserable in a loveless marriage that was just, they just yell at each other all the time.
A lot of that is cultural ideologies from their generation too, though.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of reasons for it, and I think a lot of things. I don't think my father ever wanted to be a father, really. Like, I don't think he ever understood that. Like, I never got the birds and the bees talk. I think the only advice he ever gave me was, never hit a woman. And I was like, why? It's like, you just don't do it. Like, that was like the most wisdom I got from my father at all, from a straightforward, this is how to approach life thing. Like, that's literally the only conversation I can remember at all. He was a mechanic. He never taught me how to change oil. Like that, hands off. And then my mother was just, I think, mentally ill and broken and just refused to accept it. Like, for instance, she would like be abusing the shit out of us, and I'd be like, "Yo, you need to stop abusing us." We're like 10. I was like 10 or 11 at the time. And then her response would be something like, "This is a full-grown woman, pays taxes, votes, or no, didn't vote, but can vote." Would be like, "Well, you don't know what abuse is. Abuse is," and she would like reclaim this one time with her father years ago. It's like, dude, I don't care what happened to you. I don't care if somebody chopped your fucking legs off. I'm the child. Be the fucking adult. Like, so it was just, I had 2 children for parents that never wanted to accept that it was their fault. Never wanted to claim things. And there was only a few times that they did where, like, one time my mother said, like, "Hey, when you go to apply for colleges, tell them you had a close family." I know it's not true, but like, tell them you had that. And she would put this facade that like we're this caring family, etc. But they were just broken children that refused to accept that they were.
What were your parents' childhoods like?
My mother, this single mother, proud, confident woman. I think lacking a lot of
She
guidance.
experienced any abuse or anything?
From her father, a little bit.
What about your dad? What was his childhood like?
I think it was very much like he was a ruffian.
So I think some of that is, we
certainly passed down.
You look at your parents as adults, and they are, but they're also children. They're the same beings they were when they were kids.
Yeah.
And I think we all have certain aspects of our personalities that are molded and shaped over the years by our experience.
Yeah.
And I mean, really all of it. And I'm sure they had traumas and experiences that kind of shaped who they were, their personalities. Absolutely. And so I think, unfortunately, when you see stuff like that, it's just it's the way they've dealt with their traumas and their issues. And
but once you have a kid,
hopefully it changes. Yeah, I mean, parents, like with my parents, we definitely had some dysfunctions in our family and issues and traumas, but my traumas were minuscule compared to theirs. You know what I mean? Like they tried to do better. Yeah, they did they did the best they could.
So my parents, that's not the case at
all.
And
like for me, I do the same thing with my daughter. I want to I saw the flaws in my parents, and I see the flaws in myself, and now I want to take it to another level for her. So it's to improve. But unfortunately, some people don't improve.
You don't have children yet, right?
No.
When you have children, you get to correct it.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
that's it. Yeah.
Which is what I do.
Or
so,
just my life is a correction of it. That's what I view it.
Yeah.
And
That
then
too,
by
yeah.
extension, because
Yeah.
yes, but my mother would literally. This is a true story. So I have 3 siblings, and when they would have friends come over, and the parents would come over to check out the house, make sure it's safe, very normal stuff. If I was in earshot, my mother would literally run to the kitchen and start brag and be like, "Oh, you have to come in here." She has a raspy voice. "You have to come in here and see this." She would brag about the drawer of wooden spoons that she used to beat the shit out of me with. She would brag about it to strangers in our house while I was standing there. And be like, "Well, I like this one because it's more aerodynamic. It has holes in it." I would brag about the tools she used to hit me with.
But that's how she was taught, and that's the
Yeah.
problem. Like
I
you're
don't think
supposed to.
she was, but
Really?
it's
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
I just don't think there's any excuse though.
No, it's
Yeah.
not an excuse. I
It's
think
like
a lot
but
of people
then a
want
lot
to
of
keep
these-
the cycle going. Though.
Right, but a lot of these people too would come in and never pulled me inside and said, "Young child, I don't know. Your mother is crazy and abusive.
Yeah.
yeah.
This is not your fault. Okay, you need to do good for your life." Nobody ever did that either.
Right.
I think the
Yeah.
closest I got was they would always blame me. I'd be like fucking 13. They'd be like, "Well, your relationship with your mother is not healthy. You should really try more." It's like, no, bitch. She's the mother. She's what
Feeding you
is
with
what?
spoons.
I think you guys are misunderstanding the roles here. But I'm telling you, I would get blamed my whole life for it, and it was nuts. It didn't matter what the situation was.
Yeah.
My father I'm not making this up. So my collarbone was permanently screwed up because my father broke the shit out of it. And I just turned 18. He held me down and put his full weight on me and it snapped it right in half. It hit me in the face just over and over and over again. And when I told my baseball coach, he literally asked me, "Well, what did you do?"
Wow.
I was always blamed for having shitty parents.
Mm.
And very rarely, there was a few moments of it, but nobody ever came.
Why did your
"Hey."
dad beat you up though? What was his reason?
So this is something that I don't want him to be viewed as this physical abusive monster, because that wasn't the case. I think that my mother is impossible to deal with. She's a gaslighter. She's a manipulator. She's a crier. She's a victim mindset. It does not matter what she does. She's always the victim, even if she's 100% the aggressor. And it's impossible to be around her and be happy. She's a soul sucker. And she chooses it every day with her actions. So he, on the other hand, is a very weak man. Very, very weak. But I think he relatively tries. He just doesn't really push the mold or challenge himself or try to grow. But again, I don't think they're bad people. They're just really messed up and weak. Weak, I think, is the term. So there was a night where I had very little I got to cherish for myself or hold for myself. And I bought myself this razor. It was I was 18. I was they wouldn't even let me grow up. It was a big thing for me buying my own razor. So I had this razor, and my little brother got it with literally everything because he just got treated very different than I did. Got bought a lot of stuff. As an example, I had 2 gloves my entire life. I played baseball since I was a kid. I went all the way through high school, went all conference, varsity, etc. I had 2 gloves my entire life, not a single other one. And the one that I used mainly was the same one I had since 2nd grade. My brother, on the other hand, had a dumb amount of equipment. And that was just the disparity. It was constantly that. He would just get a lot more attention, and my father showed more interest in him. Just a massive disparity. It may as well I was the ugly stepchild kind of thing, but I was the firstborn. And he broke that razor because he was messing around with it. And then when I brought it up, they didn't do anything about it. They said nothing about it. So I lost my mind because it was I'd get up for school at 5:15 in the morning. I go to school all day. I went to a magnet school and I had baseball, and I was trying to I had extremely bad mental health issues because the whole house did, or at least the environment was horrible. And then my father said, "That's it." And yeah, he wasn't even he was angry with me, but I was going after his son. I was this ugly stepchild going after his son, and I think really it's the frustration of just being there in that household, and he just took it out of me because I gave him a good excuse to. And I don't think I don't even think he did it on purpose. it just came out that way. I think he lost control. He doesn't have good like emotional regulation. I understand this, so I don't like even blame them for this. But it's still like my collarbone still hurts, you know.
Yeah.
So I get reminded. I remember. I
I can't imagine hurting my child like that though.
No, so
holding me down and hitting. And this is, but this is what I'm trying to say. It's like there's no excuse.
Yeah.
I went through shit that it does not matter what happened to them. I don't care what happened to them. If there was a gun to their head and they had to hit their child like that, they should get
yeah.
choose to get the trigger pulled. But they had every day to make up for it, and they didn't. You know, they still haven't reached out to me being like, "Yo, we're sorry for fucking you up." They still blame me. My mother called me in the middle of the night like 4 or 5 years ago asking me for help. It's like, well, I don't think I'm the number to call. They still would trash talk me and say, I'm just going around doing drugs. I barely even drink. She would get wasted every night. She would, like, the town that I grew up in, speak poorly about me constantly. When I was just going out and trying to make a life for myself. Like, whenever I did something good for myself, she would cringe. She would literally physically cringe when I told her, oh, I'm pursuing singing and I'm really enjoying it. And, oh, you know, I'm doing this yoga teacher training that, you know, meant a lot to me. She would cringe.
That's sad, man.
Yeah. So it's like, and I just realized I just didn't hit the jackpot. I just have parents that don't actually love me, and that's fine, but that's reality. So the resilience doesn't come from nothing. It comes from like, I've just made it through it. Like my first time I tried to kill myself, I was like 11. I would literally go to sleep with like plastic bags on my head. I didn't realize like you're gonna breathe no matter what. It's a biological response, but like it, you know, it's been hard. So, the father.
Well, what?
I can't remember what it was.
When did you start pursuing art or? I'm sure it was really young, but what? When did you start to figure out like music was your thing or comedy or?
Either 22 or 23.
Okay, so
really late.
Did any of it start when you were a teenager or?
The only thing was, so I would stay up late nights. I had these like things that I would like look forward to, and one was staying up for Conan.
Oh yeah, I used to do that too.
Oh my god, I adored it. And that was my entrance into stand-up comedy, was that. That's why I just always loved it. It was like a cherished thing for me, was humor, because like I had no power in my life, so the humor was like the way out. So humor was one, and that's where the stand-up comedy thing came. So I was just always a massive fan. I never thought to do it myself. It's crazy. You'd think if you get exposed to something you love so much. I never considered it.
Yeah.
And then the other thing was making playlists, like diving just deep into the internet and finding music from all over the world. And the one song that like really turned me on to music, and I was 18, so it was late still, was My Turn by Basement Jacks. Basement Jacks are a British duo that I wish more people knew about. They just like defied everything about music during those times. And if you listen to the individual sounds, they're so unique, and the singers they'd bring on, it's like a lot of black women before they were really like being pushed like that. They were way ahead of the mold, and the music was just gorgeous, and it was a certain kind of electronic music. And it just, the moment I found that song, I listened to it over and over and over and over again. I just could not get enough of it. And I'm like, oh my god! So I just started making these, just diving for music and making playlists and finding all this obscure genres from across the world. And so those two things are like huge for me, which now the main two things I do are producing stand-up comedy shows, because I just love it. I have no ego towards stand-up comedy. I just adore it as an art form.
It's just a cool art form. Yeah.
So I don't feel like doing it myself. Like I can do enough to get some laughs, but I love producing the shows.
Yeah.
And then the other side of it is I DJ, which I essentially make playlists to share.
Right.
So it's like those are my two sanctuaries.
Well, you like to create events, so which I enjoy that too.
And
They're
experiences.
so hard.
Experiences.
That's the better word.
Yeah, I enjoy that too.
Ones that take you out of everything. Like that's what I try to do with every event. Is it's a science to it. Like even how I do lighting, or where people sit, or how people sit. Like every environment that I go into, I like to make it to where people can totally lose all their problems.
Right.
And they can just really hone in and get the potency of what stand-up comedy can be, and get the potency of what like a dance floor that feels comfortable to feel safe to dance on, and closure. Oh my god, the last event I did.
Eric just showed me or introduced me to. I've seen some of his stuff. I didn't realize it was his stuff. Scott Moran, he's real big on event or experience type stuff.
You know, and I had I'm going to go backwards a hair, but like when we first had children, I was So like I choose not to be violent right now, but don't mistake me as like a being that's not a violent being, because like I definitely have the potential to be that person still, and like that's me, and I know that about myself. So I just work every day at it, and I haven't had an issue in a long time. So when Jessica found out she was pregnant March 5th of 2010, like I had to prepare myself, like, and I was like, okay,
I gotta stop hitting her.
No, not her. That I don't want to hit. I don't want to spank in anger, right?
Right.
But I couldn't. I had no self control. So like I had this period, this window before he was born in November, to think about these things, right? And it's not my parents' fault I was spanked. That's the way I was brought up. It is what it is. But
Yeah.
so when you spanked me, I reacted violently. So you'd hit me with the belt, I'd attack you, right? Like that was how I was. I'd try to take the belt from you. Like I was very.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So like if you hit some dogs, they like cower in a corner, and you hit some dogs, they bite you, right?
Right.
Like, so I was the dog that bit you. And so I was really worried about self-control and hurting one of my children potentially. And this is the preliminary basis for why I chose not to spank my kids. It grew into a lot of things, but I think spanking teaches people to react violently when they want to discourage a behavior. So like what it taught me was if you were somebody that did something I didn't like, I'd hit you and you'd stop.
Right.
And
or
so-
learn, or that's how I get my point across. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
that's same here. Yeah.
yeah, so I didn't want to be that, and anyway, so I've never spanked my children, and Daniel will be 11 in November, and I've got 3 kids, and they're very well mannered, very well respected. We have other things that we do to try and take corrective action, but not out of violence. And I don't know, so like that's something I've had to work on, and you talk about for your children. That's why I said even for you, if you have children, you get to try and do better for them and create a better environment, a better experience for them, just like you're doing for these other people that you're trying to make the world a better place through your art. You get to do that for your family, which I think is really awesome. And so I still to this day, like less violent or maybe just more controlled, right? But still to this day, they're very much sheltered from the worst of me, right?
Right.
So like my running joke right now is my halo's so bright you can't see my horns.
Well, also you're
Like-
not
Man, that's I'm 14. This is deep.
Yeah.
you're not your thoughts either. Like so much of I guess like we don't have to act on our ideas or our thoughts. Like so.
Yeah.
Or your emotions or your feelings, because based on your experiences as a kid or throughout your life, the traumas you've experienced, those things affect how you react to things in your future. Your amygdala responds certain ways. You have anger responses or fear responses or whatever, but those things aren't necessarily you. It's just an aspect of your biology, and I think being aware of
Yeah.
that's the important part. Like you're aware of those things, so when you start to feel that anger or
I just remove
a
myself.
rage, you just need to step away.
I think you're very much a reflection of your habitual output in life. Like, we're all flawed, so there's going to be things that happen where we mess up in that moment.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, when the people mess up in that moment, they just want to harp on that. It's like, oh, that person said that one thing that one time. It's like, yeah, fuck off. So have you.
Yeah.
Right. But when people do harmful things on a consistent basis, like that habitual basis, like that's why I'm not really even upset at my father for like shattering my shoulder. He didn't beat me all the time. That was not normal. So I don't have a resentment towards that, because that's so like things added up to that. Now, what I do have problem with him is he didn't like try to know who I was at all.
He wasn't interested. Yeah.
Yeah.
Try to teach me anything like that. He fucked up.
Yeah.
So when it comes to him like breaking my shoulder, that was just stuff happens, man. And I know it's like hard to say, as a kid, but that was one of like 2 or 3 times he ever got physical with me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and he's not a smart guy, so it's like he is a more physical being. So the fact that was the only few times when it was such an emotionally abusive household, it's not a big deal. But him not teaching me anything, come on, dude. That's some just L on
having
your
a relationship
forehead
with you.
shit.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only thing you teach me how to hit a woman. That's fucking nuts. So it's like his habitual output was not preparing me for the world, not teaching me about life, not teaching me how to like be a man or be the masculine side, right? So it's like that thing, whereas your habitual output, you're going to be, you not putting that violence on your children is a huge reflection of you as a person.
Yeah.
That describes you, and that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
But like, let's say one day you yell at them, but you're not a vocal person. Does that really describe you? No, things happen.
No.
But what do you habitually put out in the world? So it's like, yeah, we all have the thoughts and ideas. Like every person has thought about killing somebody. Are you kidding me? You get in traffic,
Sure,
you're
yeah.
like, I could ride that guy off the road. Fuck that guy. And that guy could have done nothing wrong in his whole
we're all
life. He could have
animals.
just been
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. But how you habitually act on those things is what's relevant. What tiger or wolf do you keep feeding? Because
Yeah.
let's say there's one time where you flick somebody off and you do about run them off the road, but it only happens one time.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that sucks, but that doesn't describe you.
Yeah.
But let's say you're always picking fights on the road. Well, now
Yeah.
you're a fucking road asshole.
Yeah,
That is you.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't
Right,
matter
yeah,
if you think
you're
you go to
listening to
church
that,
every
yeah.
Sunday.
Yeah.
That's what you do all the time.
Yeah. I agree with that.
So it's I try to really focus on that. It's like, because we're all so flawed. If you really
Yeah, we should be a lot more understanding towards other people too.
yeah, it's like, oh, they have
Yeah.
one action. Like I could understand somebody murdering somebody one time. I can't. Like, it sucks. It sucks.
Actually, I can understand somebody.
But habitually abusing somebody.
Yeah, it's a different thing. Yeah.
R. Kelly. Come
Yeah.
on, man.
Yeah.
Thumbs down.
I was
It
out.
depends on who they murder and why too, though.
Yeah. I mean.
Yeah, like, let's say somebody harms your child,
That's
and then you
different,
see
yeah.
them cut their head off. It's like, yeah, okay,
Like, yeah.
Actually,
It's understandable.
Actually, that kind of
A
I kind of
stranger.
go. Fair enough.
right. Versus like a stranger, and it's
Yeah.
a random act of violence.
That's yeah.
Now we're talking about a different thing.
Random
really
and
dangerous
senseless
person.
acts kill me.
Yeah.
Or power structures, like when people like sexually abuse people when they're in a
Oh, yeah.
power situation, like that. It's like
Yeah.
that is monstrous. Like,
think a
people
lot of
like
those
that,
are,
shoot them off on an island and have them all touch each other.
A lot of those things are probably cyclical too, though. a lot of
That's
those.
good shit. Sorry.
I think a lot of sexual abuse is a cyclical thing too, though.
Yeah. Yeah,
but-
It's like
yes.
sexual abuse, violence, those types of things are cycles.
Yes, but at
Somebody
the same
has to
time,
break the cycle.
right. And if
Yeah.
you don't break the cycle,
Oh yeah, you're
look,
at some point.
life's not
you're
fair.
just-
We all have stuff. What did you do?
become. If you don't break the cycle, you become what you hate.
We need to
Yeah.
plan it
Yeah.
for them. We just send them, or maybe one of these spaceships. We can get one of the what's his names in outer space. We'll just pedophile planet.
three
or
now.
something.
You know what's so funny? They
Oh.
what kind of awkward situation, like conversations they have? Like, oh, what brought you here? And they all act like they're the good guy and they just got wrong.
Oh yeah.
Dude, I dealt with some stuff recently where the guy just abused over and over and over again, and then acted like I was the bad guy for calling it out, and then a bunch of just messed up stuff. Learned too much about people, but like, dude, it's never anybody's fault.
Yeah.
Somebody could be like knife in their hand, and they're a knife expert, and they accidentally stab somebody. It's like, dude, you're an expert at this. Dude.
Yeah.
That's what you're good
Yeah.
at.
Well, he
You
meant
can't
to stab
claim
him in the
that.
third rib, not the fifth rib. That was the accident.
Right, but because they didn't, they're like, well, I
Yeah.
didn't at all, and this is just a byproduct, But there's just a difference.
There's a
There's a
problem
massive
in society
difference.
today with people not wanting to take responsibility.
I agree with that.
And other people saying like,
It's
well,
very
like,
entitled.
and it's
Yeah.
the entitlement too of like, well, be empathetic. It's like, yeah, but he touched little girls, so
Yeah.
that's a little bit past. Like if you're 14 and confused and you do some weird shit, I can understand that. Like if you don't have a good upbringing, etc. But if you're like 30 and you do stuff, it's like, dude, you've been out here long enough.
Yeah.
This is at this point too, and it's also, it sucks that your life added up to even having the thoughts or feelings or urges or whatever it might be. That sucks, but now you're part of this system, and you're a cancerous part of this system. Do we keep the tumor in there, and do we support and empower the tumor and say it's not the tumor's fault,
Right.
or do we do something to heal that or separate that, or
I think eventually
put a
we'll
pin
have
in
the
it?
technology to fix those problems too.
Yeah, like oh man, this is something we just get so much wrong in society. Like there's this dude, there's a teacher in Virginia that he got caught with like a child porno. That's deep subjects, huh? Child porno. And apparently he's an upstanding citizen outside of this, and they went to go check his brain. There's like a tumor in there. Well, they went to remove the tumor, and apparently the urge just went away for a while. Well, at some point, like couple years later, he got caught again. They go to check for the tumor. Tumor's back.
Interesting. Yeah.
And so it's this thing too, where it's like, do you think anybody's ever been like, I want to be attracted to kids? No. So anybody that is, who can they go and like be like, yo, this sucks. I really don't want this. What the fuck do I do? Who can they talk to
Right.
and feel safe to do that? And is that person a bad person because of how they feel? Or is the person the bad person when they do something that then...
Well, once they act on it, that's the problem.
That's the thing, is that's the case. And that's a harsh case.
But I think we'll reach a level, we talked about some biological science earlier.
Yeah.
I think with biology, we'll reach a level, and maybe not the too far future, that they'll be able to just determine which genes cause these behaviors, or
Sure.
or identify something in someone's mind that would cause a problem like that and correct it. And so it's
Right.
not an issue.
So, but right, and
Yeah.
so that's this thing where if somebody doesn't
Same thing with
act upon
sociopaths,
something-
right? Sociopaths or serial killers, those tiny percentage of the society that's just broken, they're just anomalies. The
Right.
school shooters, it's-
Right, but my stance is that, like, yes, there's empathy towards, yes, you're a person and you have these urges, and it's not fair that you have those urges.
right.
But the moment you act in a way that is direct and obvious, and you had to take a lot of steps to create that harm,
Yeah.
that's where we have to pull it back and be like, it's all a biological system, and you got to go, and we
Yeah.
got to go in a better way. But then meanwhile, we're like, arresting people on small paw charges.
Yeah,
and-
that's fucking stupid.
you know what I mean? But like Matt Gates,
For molecules.
Yeah.
that's nuts. And then still in jail for like 20-something years. But then we have Matt
So
Gates,
that's
who's
power, though.
literally a governor and straight up paid through Venmo for sex with an underage girl, and is still out and about on a microphone.
Wow.
And there's
Speaking
people
publicly.
supporting that. Like,
Yep.
holy crap.
Insane.
That's nuts, first off.
those
And have you
are-
ever talked to a 17-year-old girl? What kind of a psycho do you need to be to want to even engage in a conversation?
Yeah. Well, tough conversation.
Yeah, it's a different but
Yeah.
still, it's like it's very weird how we approach a lot of harsh subjects. It's like, oh, anybody that's attracted to children is bad people. It's like, whoa. Let's pull that back, because that's not how that works. But at the same time, people act on things, and you don't like blame the person. You're like, well, they went, like, when I called out a straight up sexual predator, women came out of the wazoo. When, first off, a bunch of women came out and were like, yes, I had experiences too, and I'm happy you said something, etc. That was most of the response. And
Yeah.
some women were like, well, you have to worry about his feelings. It's like, well, no, I don't, because he acted upon.
Right. Yeah.
He went past that point. It's like, well, don't kink shame, don't this, don't that. It's like, well, the women he harmed that are like, feel weird about themselves now don't feel great. What do we do
Right.
about that?
Do whatever you want to yourself, but once you start harming other people, that's a different thing.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
when it was even a thing where a lot of people have spoken to him about it, including me prior. And then more things happened, and then it's like at some point, empathy is not the solution anymore. So it's like
Yeah.
it's finding that balance of like, yeah, let's like, I have this thing where every time somebody does something wrong to me, my first instinct, I blame myself, which is I'm working on it. I'm working on it, y'all. But my second thing is like, okay, let me really look from this perspective and like lead with kindness, lead with as much compassion as I can, lead with power. But then if they take that kindness and they respond to it with like harshness, it's like, okay, now I'm a shark, because I've done the other thing where I just keep giving opportunity. When people show you their colors, believe them.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think living in a society where, yes, we're super empathetic, but we also understand if you fuck up too much, you fucked up too much.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It's like
Well, it's not just fucked up if you
you made the active
you
choices
fuck over someone else. That's
habitually, yeah.
that's the problem. Yeah.
Like, again,
If you make mistakes or you just can't get it right, that's okay. That's where society should be understanding. You're trying.
Yeah.
But when you're trying to manipulate other people or harm other people in the process, that's the problem.
Yeah, and there's also too like somebody can go to try to rob a bank and have a gun, but they really never meant to harm anybody. Versus somebody that absolutely shot at somebody.
Right.
There's a humongous
difference.
difference.
Yeah.
agree
Where
with
somebody that they were just trying to make a better life and feel good, but then they can go away the rest of their life.
Well, you see stuff like that.
Versus-
You look at like when I look at crime, I just look at the result of a problem. The crime isn't
yeah.
the real problem. The problem is what's creating the criminal. That's.
Yeah. Like, oh my God. Have you guys seen the Netflix thing, I'm a Killer?
I know what you're talking. I haven't seen
Dude,
it.
it is so good.
I've heard it's really
every
good.
single story is like a kid that ultimately did not be given the love and resources and support they needed to function, or got put in a really bad situations, maybe mentally deficient and lower IQ, whatever, and intelligence, ability to ration. They listened to the wrong person. There's this one guy specifically who's just sweet as can be, but obviously cannot think very quickly or think straightforward, and he understands that now, but he's been in jail since he was like 18 or 19 or something, because he killed an old woman when they went to go rob this house. And the reason why she wouldn't go to rob the house is because like his uncle or something like that was constantly telling him to be a thug and be a gangster, etc. Meanwhile, uncle's out and about free. He was constantly influencing this kid to think that way, constantly influencing. And then when the kid went and did something, nope, my hands are washed. But the kid was just listening and trying to fit in and thought his uncle was really cool because he played the cool guy. And for me, it's like when you listen to this guy talk, I only think this guy could ever be harmed to others because, he doesn't function as quickly as others. So maybe he won't make a good decision.
Right.
But how he talked was so soft and just so sweet and so ownership, and he felt really bad about it. And out of all of them was like the most straightforward. Like, I probably shouldn't be out because I can't think good, and I just try. And
right. Well, children
I
are
did
so
do
easily
this.
influenced too. If you can destroy a child.
Right. Meanwhile, that guy's out and about, that uncle, going out and influencing the world every day. And that guy habitually does that, whereas the kid just did it fucked up one time.
When you look at cultures of hate and violence, like terrorist communities and stuff like that, it's what they do. They destroy the children. They brainwash the children, and then they grow up and
control the
violent.
women, brainwash the children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a common thing.
Very true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot. So
We've unpacked some crazy stuff today already.
Yeah. No. Yeah. It's been interesting.
we could keep diving deeper, honestly. But this is a lot of these things too. Is like with what I do, like it's not like, yes, I throw parties and do happy time things, but like it's built on the back of personal extreme struggle, and like I have like heavy CPTSD I struggle with, and I have to battle demons every day, but I battle the fuck out of them, and I'm a goddamn champion on a hill with my stuff.
I like it.
Good.
I go out into the world and very much make the problems I struggle with not the world's problems, and I wish people really understood that everything I'm doing is because I wish it existed for me, and I know the impact of it, and I know how special it is, and that a lot of people claim to do things for these intentions, but I know they don't. The more I meet people that they say they throw parties for the music. No, they don't, man.
Yeah.
They say they DJ because they love the music. No, they don't, man. It's identity and all this other crap. But like, man, I could cry almost every time I go to DJ. It means that much to me. But because of the average DJ, it's like, it seems like it's such a convoluted art form. But for me, it's like, I'm sharing this music that every single song I have a different relationship with, and I love it. And people are getting to hear it, and fortunately, people do respond really well to it. Like, man, the last party I threw, in the last like big DJ gig I had, is this new warehouse party we're doing in Raleigh, which I cannot recommend enough. It is beautiful. It's called Cumulus. And by the end of my set, I was looking out, and there was a bunch of women on the dance floor, like younger girls, maybe early 20s, etc., dancing with their eyes closed, just totally uninhibited. And I just got lost. I wasn't like checking that out the whole time, and I just look up and I'm just like, God, this is awesome. This is so cool.
Man.
Yeah, because there's such like a rampant problem of like women not being able to be. There's objects at a party that people trying to. And the fact that they could close their eyes and feel safe was just gorgeous. But that's after like me having hundreds of conversations about how do we make our spaces safe for women to just be people and really attract the best out of guys, and for people to really be there for the communal aspect of it and really enjoying the music and the experience. So like all of our stuff that we're doing, everything under Between Two Clouds, every single thing that touches that brand is me taking all of this hardship and all of the things that I'm trying, that I notice can be better, and really trying and sticking to that and building business models that are sustainable and only involving people in positions of power that really like.
That won't abuse them.
Right. The reason why I'm putting them in those positions of power is because they really love the thing that I'm asking them to do.
Yeah.
And they're not focused on what the thing can get them. They're focused on the thing. And so it's like, yeah, it's a silly comedy show, but I really am trying to make it infused with all of these like wonderful things. I don't know. I'm just trying to grow and understand I'm a flawed person. I have a lot to grow and still learn. There's tons of things I want to still change about myself. And, I want to like live the best life I could possibly do and live such an honorable life to where at the end of the day, nobody can tell me a damn thing about me because I damn sure tried with the best of intentions. And if I did something of bad intention, I beat myself up to a pulp until I'm like, you will never do that again.
Yeah.
And I want the projects to really reflect that because that's how I can right the wrongs of, the hand I was dealt.
Yeah.
And I don't know what happens after death, but I damn sure know what's going to happen in my life when I'm alive. I was going to be trying my best.
Definitely.
That's it, man. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It is.
Well, hey, dude. It's been awesome having you on the show.
Definitely.
Really enjoyed it. How can people follow you? And if you have any events coming up or anything,
Yeah, so we're mostly out of the triangle right now. So the two main things we do are stand-up comedy shows right now and parties that are very much DJ, house, and techno oriented. So I highly recommend them. We're doing some other stuff with our galleries too, but it's Between Two Clouds, BETWEEN, the number 2, clouds.com. There's also a Facebook page. Facebook page has all the events on it. The website has a calendar on it. I highly recommend the Cumulus event. It's a warehouse party that happens once a month in Raleigh, and it's
Cool.
free too.
Nice.
But I cannot recommend that event enough. It is like significant. But all the comedy shows are good. So if
Are you on
wanna check 'em
Instagram
out-
also?
Yeah, I actually just hired a social media person as well. So we're gonna
We
start
did too,
having a
yeah.
boost. Yeah, she's awesome. So yeah, Instagram. It's all Between Two Clouds. Wherever you
Cool.
want to see that.
Awesome.
So yeah, that's stuff.
Awesome.
But
Well,
where do we follow y'all?
it's been cool. Oh, well, they're watching the show.
I
So. They know. Well, make sure you follow Between Two Clouds and check out his events. And I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. If you did, be sure to like and subscribe. We'll see you next week.
Feliz
Bye, guys.
Navidad.
Later, guys.
Namaste.
Hey. Arrivederci. Was that Avida saying goodbye?